Welcome inside episode 495 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Pillar up in the Blue Mountains on a game day for your Ottawa Senators. The Sens we knew would be without their top scorer. We knew they'd be without their top goal scorer, but we didn't know that their top defenseman would also be out of the lineup.
Not the kind of Sens Central bump we had in mind for Thomas Chabot, who was supposed to play in his 300th game tonight, Ross, but one door closes, another one opens, and we're going to see who's going to take those minutes on the top power play. Who's going to end up playing with Zaitsev on the top pair? Can Brannstrom pick up his game like he did at the end of last season when Thomas Chabot went down? It's going to be interesting to find out.
We also have a pair of revenge games. Let's get into it. This is the Locked On Senators podcast. Your team every day.
Or Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Senators your first listen on this Tuesday, February 15th. And Pilsy, it was 5-1.
A year ago today, we saw one of the greatest comebacks in Ottawa Senators history up against the Toronto Maple Leafs. It was 5-1, and Evgeny Dadonov became a Sens legend forever.
Contract worth it just for that game?
Easily, and he gave us Nick Holden, so you gotta love it. Exactly, and who knows what that third pick will end up being. But for the Sens to mount that comeback and for Leafs fans to be confident, to be sitting there thinking it's 5-1, we've got this one in the bag. You'll love to see that. Ross, the tears of Leafs fans just taste so much sweeter when it's an epic comeback like that.
And they've been known to blow leads, the Toronto Maple Leafs. 4-1 in Game 7 back against the Boston Bruins, but never have they blown a 5-1 lead. That's the biggest comeback in Ottawa Senators history. Yep. Nick Paul with the shorty near the end of the second period.
That was huge.
Making it 5-2, and then the boys did the rest. And this photo just encapsulates the entire thing. Dadonov celebrating. Like, this is how much of a throwback it is. It's 1 year ago today, and in this photo, there's Mike Riley and Christian Wolanin as two of the defensemen for the Ottawa Senators. So it just shows you how quick things can change. This photo literally belongs in the Louvre. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see that Brady Tkachuk eating dirt, or eating ice, I should say, as he flies off the bench. Just an absolute beauty. And if you look really closely, a dejected Joe Thornton peers over the shoulder of Mike Riley. That episode of Amazon's Leafs Do or Die was absolutely electric. Pilsy, it feels like Ottawa is starting with a 5-1 deficit tonight against the St. Louis Blues. No Josh Norris, no Drake Batherson, no Scott Sabourin, and no Thomas Chabot. But in all seriousness, that is three big pieces out of the lineup. And this is a St. Louis Blues team that has their aspirations set on another Stanley Cup.
And a St. Louis Blues team with no injuries in their lineup, as healthy as can be.
Not to disrespect Marco Scandella.
Oh, he's injured?
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Sorry about that, Marco.
Reset the lines, BetOnline. Reset the lines.
He's a healthy scratch then, which is kind of surprising. But this Blues team, like, they're feeling it right now. They're coming off a 5-1 win. Husso, their backup goalie, the young prospect.
Sens are coming off a 4-1 win, bud.
Yes, that's true. It's true. But a 4-1 win with Thomas Chabot in for most of that game. And Ross, we've seen Mete Zaitsev as a pair before. We saw them as a third pair. Now we're going to have to see them as, obviously Holden and Zub are going to get majority of the minutes here. Just because that's how it shakes out doesn't mean that's how the minutes are going to shake out. But we don't want to have to see Mete Zaitsev anymore, let alone more than we have to. So this is going to be a tough task because also when we get to the St. Louis Blues lines, Ross, you can see this top nine is probably one of the most complete top nines in the entire league. Like, a lot of teams have excellent top six forward lines, but all the way down to the third line here, they're scoring. They pack a punch every single position. So this Senators team being so down, being so out, top guys being injured, like Matt Murray is going to have one hell of a project out in front of him. And he's been up to the task lately. So you can't worry too much about that, but he can't score goals.
Not often that your save percentage goes up 10 points after 2 losses. And it was Anton Forsberg in goal for that 4-1 win against Washington. But the last few games that Matt Murray has played has just been phenomenal goaltending, really, since January 1st. We can rewind the clock there. The win-loss doesn't look as sexy now, 5-2-2 instead of 5-0-2 right after. But hey, he's still giving this team a chance to win game in, game out. You can't win a game unless you score a goal, Pilsy, and he's got exactly 0 goal support combined in his last 2 games. Yep. That's simply unacceptable. But do the Senators have enough firepower to get goals on any given night? Like, did they waste too many against Washington, if that's possible?
Yeah, I mean, if only you could transfer goals over, that'd be great. But I think they're going to have a real tough time here, and we'll see who starts the game for St. Louis, whether it's Binnington or Husso. But let's hope it's Binnington, because he's been struggling lately. So it'd be nice to see the Sens at least have a weaker goalie going up against them to give them a chance. Which is funny to say when you're talking about the starter, not the backup, for a change. But this, like, I don't even know, Ross. This lineup just does not give me a lot of confidence when you're going up against a big powerhouse team like the Blues.
No, me neither. And it's just too bad, because this game was supposed to happen, well, actually in November. So maybe it would have been even worse then, right? Because this is one of those rescheduled games. But maybe if you're looking at the positives, the Sens can take advantage of home ice in the sense of getting last change. And if I'm DJ Smith, I'm going to Holden and Zub. I'm saying, boys, you're probably playing 30 tonight. Like, yeah, those are the guys who I want taking Chabot's minutes, not saying, hey, Mete, why don't you go play 23 tonight? No.
After not playing for quite a while, yeah.
No. I just can't see it. So if we're looking at D pairs that have played at least 50 minutes together, I've pulled this up, and credit to Natural Stat Trick for doing this. Where do I have it here? So they haven't actually played enough time on ice together to qualify for 50 minutes, but man, Chabot has just carried Zaitsev for 400 minutes since the start of DJ Smith's tenure as head coach. Now, the only guy Chabot's played more with over that time is Ron Hainsey, ironically enough. So now you're without Thomas Chabot in the lineup. Obviously, it's a huge hole. How are you hoping to see this game unravel? Is probably the wrong term, but I feel like it might be a Freudian slip by me right there. But how do you hope to see this game progress as the D-core shakes out?
Well, like you said, Holden and Zub are going to get a majority of this assignment for sure. But look, Brannstrom and Brown, I was a little disappointed Brannstrom wasn't the guy elevated in the lineup, but who knows how many minutes Mete and Zaitsev are actually going to play. And Brannstrom and Brown have been a good pair lately. And Brannstrom said today, I like playing with Josh Brown. He's a big, stronger guy, helps me play a little bigger and helps me focus on moving the puck. So he's going to have to step up big time here. And like I mentioned in the intro, last season when Tom Chabot went down for that bit of time, Brannstrom stepped up his game in a big way. He's going to get an opportunity, I assume, to quarterback the top power play unit here. And Brannstrom needs to start getting some points. Like, sure, his play overall, his defensive play has been much better than before. But for a guy that's touted as a puck-moving defenseman and who we saw work magic on the power play in Belleville, he hasn't been able to transition that to the NHL. So this is, again, going to be another tough task for him, and he's going to have to step up because I don't think Chabot's out long-term. That's what it seems like for the Sens, and that's probably why we don't see Brannstrom switch off his partner with Brown. DJ Smith wants to keep some continuity here, but this is, if you're Erik Brannstrom, obviously you don't want anyone on your team to get injured, but this is the perfect opportunity for you here, and you need to seize this opportunity.
Just a slight correction there for me. I was looking at just the first year of DJ Smith's tenure with Chabot, playing more with Hainsey than with Zaitsev. Chabot and Zaitsev have played almost 1,400 minutes together.
Yeah, I thought that was a little low. Yeah.
So that was just the first year. Now I have it as a full. Now, Victor Mete has played 30 separate games, at least partially, with Nikita Zaitsev, but they played 142 minutes together. They've been on the ice for 4 goals for and 8 against in 142 minutes. So it's not statistically the absolute worst, but we've seen it in action, and it just doesn't really do the job. I see what you're talking about, and I praised DJ Smith for this same thing last week of not shaking up the pairs as often as he did at the start of the year. Nick Holden said it in his post game a while ago, or maybe it was a practice day. I feel like it's more of a practice day question, but that he feels so much more confident being able to know that game in and game out, he's going to have the same partner, have the same reads, know where guys are, and that's gone a long way. So I don't mind from that standpoint. If you're Erik Brannstrom, who would you rather play with, Josh Brown or Nikita Zaitsev?
I mean, Josh Brown. Like, if you're looking at the analytics and how he's been playing lately and what we just talked about, having consistent D partner, I think it makes sense. So we're going to see Brannstrom get elevated minutes here, but can Josh Brown continue to play up to how he's been playing lately in an elevated role? That's going to be the big difference here, I think.
Yeah, in 123 minutes, they're actually an above 50% Corsi share, above 50% goal share, Brannstrom and Josh Brown. So I'm with you, man. I think that what really throws me for a loop, and later on in the show, we're going to get into the lines, our locked on player, our lookout player. We got the St. Louis Blues lines. What an absolute team they've assembled down in St. Louis. But I think what really threw me for a loop was how the pairs were ordered. I think if Holden and Zuber are your top pair, then Brannstrom and Josh Brown, then Mete and Zaitsev, I think it's a little more palatable. But when you just see Mete and Zaitsev as the number one pair against a Stanley Cup champion the last time there was a full 82-game season, and they needed all 82 games just to make the playoffs that year. If you recall, on January 1st, they were in dead last, and it was a practice fight that turned the whole thing around. A Senator was involved in there. So we're going to talk revenge games, him and Logan Brown playing against their former teams, then a complete preview of the game. But first, Pilsy, you've got a word from one of our favorite sponsors.
Yep, absolutely, Ross. Both of us are beard guys, and the way we keep our beards looking good, looking nice, and smelling nice is Primal Origin Oils. Got beard? Get Primal. You heard that right. Got beard? Get Primal. If you or someone you care about has a beard, it needs to get Primal. Maybe you're the guy that's never considered the benefits of treating your beard with product. I get that. I was one of those guys until I tried Primal Origin Oils, because their goal is to help others look good and live healthier lives through the use of natural oils, guys. That's the key. None of this garbage. It's all natural stuff. The products are free from harmful synthetic ingredients with a low impact on our planet, so you can feel good about what you're purchasing. Primal Origin Oils makes balms, oils, whipped butter that are renowned as the best feeling in beard products available. That's because they have a blend with oils like raspberry seed, rose hip, and chia seed oil. All products are fair trade certified and handcrafted in the USA. Check out primaloriginoils.com to learn more about their full line of beard care products. And since you guys are loyal listeners of the Locked On podcast, we're going to make sure you got a promo code. So type in promo code Locked On, and you're going to get yourself a 20% discount. That's not bad on a combo kit. It would be a great holiday gift. Valentine's Day just came and left. So if you got anniversaries, birthdays, anything like that, that's what you want to hit on. So personalize your experience and get a nice new beard for you or someone you care about. We know every company claims to have the best, but Primal Origin Oil challenges you to compare their ingredients and feel in beard to other companies you've used. They're not worried about it. We promise you will see and feel the difference. Remember, the code Locked On gets you 20% off at primaloriginoils.com. Locked On promo code, 20% off at checkout, primaloriginoils.com.
And you can advertise with the Locked On Podcast Network. Just shoot us a DM on Twitter at SendCentral, on Instagram, LockedOn.Senators, or you can go to our YouTube page. It's the Locked On Senators YouTube page. We appreciate if you hit a subscription there, and our contact is available as well if you want to advertise with Locked On Senators. It's a game day edition, which means the postcast will be live following tonight's game against the St. Louis Blues. We're going to be joined by at Laleem's Martian, as always, absolute beauty. Go follow him on Twitter. Got the clips rolling.
With the new haircut.
Whoa.
Laleem's Martian. So look out, everyone.
He's going to be very in sync tonight, and I'll let that be a little tease for how Martian's going to come rolling in to the postcast. And we might be joined as well by Locked On Blues host Thomas Welsh, great guy as well. So stay tuned for the postcast. It'll start about 15 minutes after the game tonight. But if you go right now and subscribe to Locked On Senators on YouTube, you'll know exactly when we go live. You get that little notification, and the buys will be buzzing. Can promise you that. Win, lose, or draw, because revenge is on the horizon for one guy or another. Should we start with the dearly departed or who the Senators got in return?
Well, let's start with the dearly departed Ross, because it's a quick conversation, seeing as he's probably the other healthy scratch that we haven't talked about.
No way. He's going to get healthied?
He didn't play in last night's game, and he's not on their updated lineup for daily faceoff.
No.
So
he needs 13. He being Logan Brown needs 13 more games this year for Ottawa to avoid sending a 4th-round pick to St. Louis to complete the Zack Sanford trade with Ottawa. So he's gone, just like that, because we had Rudy Balcer syndrome for him for a little bit, right? He makes it to the NHL finally. I mean, he made it a bit with Ottawa. He played 23 games in 2019, 2020. That's more games than he's gotten with St. Louis.
True.
But he started out so hot in St. Louis. Now they just extended him, and they gave him a one-way contract next year. So that's when things will become very interesting. But he scored in his first game with St. Louis. He scored in his third game with St. Louis. And he had points in 5 of his first 6 games with the Blues. But since then, Pilsy, only 1 point in his last 10 games. So 5 points in his first 6, 1 point in his last 10. And he hasn't scored a goal in his last 15 games. So I think it was a little bit of the hype when you get in. You're feeling good. Your momentum's in full swing. Is that what you think kind of fell off here with Logan Brown?
Absolutely. And look, we said it all along. We loved watching Logan Brown in Belleville.
So sick.
We hoped.
Nick Paul and Drake Batherson were unbelievable as a line.
Yeah, epic. So we knew the potential there. We said it many times. We hope he does well. It's just not going to happen with Ottawa. It's not working. The relationship had soured a long time ago with agents, parents getting involved. Like things were just out of control. Right?
Out of control.
So we knew he had to move on. I wasn't surprised when he was hot. St. Louis is a great team for him to go to. Hometown kid. So he's got a lot of motivation to do well there. He's playing in a bottom 6 role. And yeah, he had good line mates to support him. But again, I wasn't surprised when he cooled off too, because this is a guy that just did not play with enough emphasis. He did not use his size to his advantage.
Do you think he could spell intensity?
Yeah, well, maybe not. And also, it was good to get one Brown off the roster. Like
too many.
There's too many Browns. Like it was like the Montreal Canadiens collecting pitlicks here, right? Like it was just wild. So Logan Brown had to move on, and then when he cooled off, that made a lot of sense. This whole this part of the trade with the draft pick involved is so funny. It's so weird that the Ottawa Senators get that looped in. I feel like every single time there's a trade, Ross, the GM is like, "Oh, you guys are the Senators, so you're going to throw in the extra pick, right?"
Right.
That's standard practice in the NHL with trading with the Sens. Is they throw an extra pick in there. But look, it's too bad. But I don't think Logan Brown's going to play tonight.
No, that's too bad. Anyways, here's Wonderwall. I was excited to watch Logan Brown.
Look at that watch if you're on YouTube. Holy crap!
That's before
that's his whole signing bonus.
Yeah, no doubt. Jesus. Anyways, that was Pierre Dorion's first draft pick as general manager of the Ottawa Senators. Don't let him forget that, as Jacob Chychrun right behind him, Charlie McAvoy right behind him. We clown on the Boston Bruins for the 2015 draft. They certainly flipped that script the next year, taking Charlie McAvoy 3 picks later. As Locked On Bruins host, Ian McLaren was quick to point out with me as I posted that fun clip from our Thomas Chabot interview yesterday where I mentioned, but it's not the same because
the 3 draft picks in a row, like it's not the same. But if you followed along with that, story, you know that wasn't their plan, right? The Bruins had Martin Jones for half a second, and something didn't work out there, and they didn't mean to take all 3 of those picks. So, but it's still an epic fail.
It's unreal. And then, I mean, the cherry on top is taking Chabot's D partner, who was ranked higher from Central Scouting.
Yes.
But then you can't clown on the Sens drafting or scouting. in the same conversation. So that's where it kind of threw me for a little bit of a loop, because it was very apparent by me, as I told Chabot, I scouted him when he was playing in Halifax. I'm the reason
Boots
why.
on the ground scouting, which we know is effective.
Yeah, and then I think it was 6 months after his draft, he became the only defenseman to win World Juniors MVP. So, I mean, you do the math on that one. Pretty solid. If you missed our interview with Shabby, it was absolutely great. Yes. Unfortunately, he's out of the lineup, but the Send Central bump will live on the moment that he's back in the lineup.
It's just pending. It's a pending Send Central bump.
And we did have someone point out, so just for fullness sake, we interviewed him before the hit against Washington. Of course, we would have brought that up with him, but that happened before. Pilsy, we went long on Logan Brown. Shocker, tall guy, went long on him. But that being said, we do have to talk revenge games and get a full preview of the game. Oh my God, I have to pull up this photo of Logan Brown first. This is no, it's heartwarming in a way, but it's also kind of sad. This is from Logan Brown's draft.
Damn.
Yeah. You got Daniel Alfredson on one side working with the organization at that time, and the late, great Brian Murray there as well. His first draft as senior advisor, as I mentioned, Pierre Dorian had taken over, but that's a photo right there, Pilsy. That's a historic photo here in Sens history. Rest in peace, Brian Murray, a guy who was, I think, unanimous on the Senators' Mount Rushmore. Seemed like everybody, when we did that last week, everyone had Beamer on the Mount Rushmore, and the stories that come out about him, just an absolute beauty.
Yep.
So we'll see what is next with Logan Brown, however, coming up tonight against the player, potentially. Again, might be a healthy scratch, but still, we got to talk about Logan Brown. This guy with 11th overall pick for the Ottawa Senators and never truly panned out. But Zack Sanford, I don't know if I can say he panned out, but he does have a hat trick, one more than Logan Brown ever had with the Ottawa Senators. So let's touch on him and get a full preview of tonight's game. But on the way there, we got to let you know about our presenting sponsor, always with the Locked On Podcast Network. It's betonline.net. Football might be over, but betonline.net has way more odds and info for everything else you need. Basketball, boxing, UFC, hockey. Their coverage is the best in the business, from sports right down to your favorite Vegas casino games. BetOnline is your number one online wagering destination. BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports and play your favorite games. BetOnline, where the game starts. Make sure you're Locked On Senators wherever you download your podcasts, including on YouTube, where we hope you subscribe. And if you do, hit that thumbs up button. Why not? It takes 2 seconds, goes a long way for us. Comments, even better. Let us know your favorite part of our interviews or what you disagree with us for. We're always happy to go back and forth. What we say is not gospel, it's conversation. And that's where Pilsy and I are going to pick up on Zack Sanford. First of all, this is a good time to get a grade on what you think Zack Sanford has done. 45 games into his Senators career. Is this about what you would have expected from Logan Brown? 14 points over this stretch of 45 games?
I mean, that's fair to say, yeah, but I think Sanford has brought a little something extra that Logan Brown can't, right? Veteran experience. It's funny saying a veteran. I think he's only 27 years old, but he's been to a Stanley Cup final. He's won a Stanley Cup.
Fly forever.
Exactly. He was one of the 2 guys who had that fight in practice that got things going for the Blues, really fired them up, and they went from last all the way to a cup final, which is an incredible Cinderella story. And look, Sanford, maybe he's not popping off offensively like I had hoped. We saw he was just 2 years removed from a 16-goal season, but he's been an effective guy. He's been healthy. Pretty much, he's played a lot of the games, right? He's been able to move up and down the lineup. He's played on the power play. I'd like a little bit more results from him, but I think he's a guy that the Senators are happy they acquired because they didn't need another 22-year-old fringe NHL prospect, right? That's not what they needed. They needed someone that they can rely on night in and night out and can move up and down the lineup and help provide some veteran presence for this team. So I think the trade worked out, and I'm still on the side that if they can get Zack Sanford at a good price, I would be okay with extending him for 1-2 years at the most, but it's got to be at a good price, right? Because they're going to need veteran guys, right? Like if they let Sanford walk or trade him, they're going to have to replace it somehow. I don't think they need to bring another prospect up to fill that hole. So I wouldn't mind bringing Sanford back just because of the familiarity that would be involved there.
Well, his last time as a member of the St. Louis Blues, people are crediting this fight with Robbie Bertuzzo in practice as turning the whole season around. This fight happened when they were in dead last, and next thing you know, they're winning the Stanley Cup. Okay, maybe it was a little bit deeper than that, but truly an incredible turnaround, one for the history books. Think about it as the Hamburglar run, with a little bit more runway in the season to lose more than one game in regulation, make the playoffs, but then continue that run.
Yeah, exactly.
Although
all the way to the championship.
Game 6 against Montreal should still be going. That Pajot quick whistle, I'll never get over that. However,
still under protest.
You know what kind of sucked about that run? Not to be a complete hater, but if the St. Louis Blues had lost to the San Jose Sharks in the final that year, Ottawa would have got another first-round pick in the Erik Karlsson trade.
Would have been laughable to add that on to the massive load of prospects and picks they got there.
And I had forgotten the reason why Ottawa got a 2020 first-round pick, because their 2019 first-round pick ended up being like 28th, right? Because they made the conference final, was because they gave it away to get Evander Kane. Yep. So talk about an embarrassment for the San Jose Sharks in that trade. The ugly getting uglier, and they don't even get a Stanley Cup final appearance out of it. It's so close, but so far. Now, hey, if you're Zack Sanford, I would say like a C. It's kind of like, meh. He's a third-line guy. I think if a team gives you a third-round pick for him, right? Because that way, would you do it for a fourth? That would be getting back the pick you gave with Logan Brown, assuming he doesn't get 13 more games.
No, because look at the impact, right? When would that fourth pick pan out? It probably, I know Drake Batherson, I know Mark Stone, I know there's a lot of good stories about later picks, but you're looking at 2 to 3 years at best that this guy's going to have an impact in the NHL. That's not what the Senators need. And they can get third, fourth round picks for other guys that we don't think are going to be returning, right? So I don't know. I know it's kind of it doesn't move the needle too far one way or another, but I'd be okay with them bringing back Sanford in a short-term basis. Yeah.
He's making $2 million this year, though. I wouldn't sign him for that much.
I think somewhere around that. Like, he's going to want more than 1.5, and there's no way the Sens can give him 2.5. So
1.99 or something.
Yeah,
just to keep
Bruce Garriock Sens signed him for under $2 million.
Yeah, what a steal.
Yeah.
Speaking of the game tonight, and we will see Zack Sanford. We probably will not see Logan Brown. All that to say, this is going to be a tough one for the Ottawa Senators. Let's start with their lineup. And oh boy. So they found a combination here that worked. And Stützle, Gaudette, and Formenton is just that. Connor Brown has shown offensive upside. Here, I'll just run through the lineup first for everyone who's just listening, and then we'll break it down. So Nick Paul at center on the top line with Brady Tkachuk and Connor Brown. The second line is Tim Stützle between Alex Formenton and Adam Gaudette. The third line, Chris Tierney, back over to center between Parker Kelly and Zack Sanford. The fourth line, Gambrell between Bishop and Ennis. On defense, Mete Zaitsev, which we spoke about, Holden Zub, and Brannstrom with Josh Brown. Matt Murray starts in goal. That's been confirmed by DJ Smith. So Mark Haslick comes out of the lineup. Dylan Gambrell comes in. Your thoughts on how DJ Smith is playing around here with an undermanned group?
I was pretty shocked that Kaslik was the odd man out here. Sure, he hadn't been 80% in the faceoff dot the last couple of days, but I still think he played an effective role in the fourth line. He adds some size. He's still doing okay in the faceoff dot by Ottawa Senators standards, not by league-wide standards. But again, I think you got to manage ice time if you're DJ Smith. The injuries are piling up here. You need to be rotating guys in and out of the lineup just to keep guys fresh with how compact the schedule is ahead. So I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's meh. Yeah.
Fair. What do you think Gambrell did to fall out of DJ Smith's good graces? He loved this guy up until like 3 games ago.
I don't think he's fallen out of DJ Smith's good graces, Ross. I think it's clearly just a fact of rotating guys to keep fresh legs. Like he only missed one? I don't even think it was two games, was it?
Two. I think it was the Pittsburgh and the Washington game. Or sorry, Boston and Washington.
Okay, yeah. So I think he's still all right by DJ Smith's standards, but I think he just wanted to switch it up because Gambrell, you know what you're getting, right? And it's not awful. He's okay in the faceoff dot, no offensive upside, shutdown center, good on the PK, right? So I think maybe he was just trying to, as the Senators didn't score in back-to-back games, he was just trying to say, okay, a guy that's a defensive-minded guy, maybe we need to get a little offensive strike here. Let's switch it up. I think that's all.
So it was just one game. It was the Washington game.
Yeah,
he played, but he only played 7 minutes and 50 seconds against Boston. And really, since the Buffalo game where I think he left that game, that was the game he left with injury.
Yep.
Since he's been back, it's been a lot less, right? He really relied on that line through the middle stretch there. Against Columbus in that 2-1 win, Pills, he played almost 20 minutes the game before he got hurt. And 16 minutes the game before that, and 14 the game before that, and 15 and 14, and so on. You get what I'm saying? Since he's been back, it's 10, 12, 8. So clearly there has been a little bit of regression.
I think the difference, though, Ross, is if you look at the scores, right? Those games where he got high minutes is when the Sens were trying to keep goals from being scored on them. Where the games where he didn't get minutes is when the Sens need to score goals. So I think that's the correlation there.
That's a great point, Pilsy. Great point, bud. Now let's move over to the St. Louis Blues. We're going to get back to our Locked On player at the end of the show, but I need to show you this because this is how you build a hockey team. You could argue that maybe one more piece on the back end, but up front, man, this top 9 is about as good as you'll find in terms of depth. Now, I'll run through them first, then we'll discuss. It's Ryan O'Reilly at center between Braden Shen and Jordan Kyrou. On the second line, Robert Thomas between Pavel Buchnevich and Vladimir Tarasenko. The third line is Ivan Barbashev between Brandon Saad and David Perron. And then the fourth line, Joshua Kostin and Sundqvist on defense, Mikola and Colton Parayko, Krug and Falk, and then Wallman and Bortuzzo. Maybe we'll see a real fight between Bortuzzo and Zack Sanford. Probably not. We don't know either who the goalie will be, either Binnington or Husso. And Husso has been by far the better of the two, despite making a sliver of what Jordan Binnington is making. Their top scorer is Jordan Kyrou with 43 points in 42 games, recently won the fastest skater at the NHL All-Star Game. The St. Louis Blues are 27, 14, and 5 with 6 wins in their last 10 games. Pilsy, it's a good team.
This is a great team. Yeah, and like we mentioned, that those 3 top lines are so good. Like, maybe people don't know a whole lot about Barbashev or Buchnevich, but these guys are solid, and they're all having good years. Like, going to their stats page, like, Jordan Kyrou lighting up. Tarasenko only has 2 points behind Kyrou. Buchnevich, I think that's one of the most underrated trades all offseason. I have a lot of stock in Buchnevich in fantasy hockey, so I'm glad he's doing well. And then Barbashev, that's a guy I don't know much about, Ross, but 34 points in 34 points in 45 games, That's solid, and he's shooting at a 20.3% success rate. So these guys, they can get it done.
Yeah, he was a guy who I actually got to watch a little bit, same as Chabot in junior, because he was playing in the Atlantic Division with Moncton when they were up against Halifax, and he was always a good player. It was him and Connor Garland together on a team in Moncton, and both smaller guys in stature, but they play the game tough. And you can tell just from the way this St. Louis Blues team is built that their coach is Craig Berube. Chief, one of the most toughest, feared fighters in NHL history. And he certainly has a team here. And of course, it's the GM Doug Armstrong who builds the team, but he's built it to that flavor of being tough, being gritty. And it starts with their leader, Ryan O'Reilly. Now, I am so nervous here. And this is why it's important the Sens have last change. I do not want to see Timmy take more than 2 faceoffs against Ryan O'Reilly, the best faceoff man in the NHL.
Yeah, he's incredible in the faceoff dot, and that would be very tough assignment for Timmy. So we'll see who, because
it's going to be Nick Paul if you're the Sens, like Paul, Brown, and Tkachuk. But then are you neutering Tkachuk a little bit by making him play a more defensive role?
I don't think you're neutering him because him and Connor Brown can still get some offense when they get the chances, right? Especially as of late, they've really kind of heated up here. So it's going to be interesting to see the matchups here, but in the face-off dot, I think it's going to be a major struggle.
Yeah, 100%. And we'll see how this game shakes out. I think it's going to be a very intriguing game from a coaching standpoint about who's going to match up against who. Because, yeah, Nick Paul's probably going up against Ryan O'Reilly, but then you've got Robert Thomas's line right there. Now, Vladimir Tarasenko was hoping for a trade in the offseason. He was left exposed to Seattle. And don't get me started on Seattle. They absolutely butchered their expansion draft. They don't even have any picks. That's a story for another day. A day soon, as Ottawa's going to face off against Seattle sooner rather than later. We'll roast them as they are meant to be roasted later on, especially like the only right pick they made was taking Joey Daccord. God damn you, Seattle. Still an absolute beauty. Dax, always a friend of the show. That being said, this Blues team, man, they're deep, they're big, they're going to wear you down. But this is a prime Sensing game. You know what? 3-1 win for the Ottawa Senators tonight. Book it, Pilsy. 3-1 win.
Love the enthusiasm, love the positivity, but I don't see that. I think it's going to be a 4-1 win for the Blues, but it does depend on the goaltending. Like, we need to find out the goaltender to really have a sense of how this is going to go, because Husso is hot and Binnington is cold.
He leads the NHL in goals against average.
Yeah,
Husso does.
Very good. Yeah, and Binnington is looking like Matt Murray at the start of this season.
Nice. All right, who's your locked on player for the Ottawa Senators?
All right, my locked on player is going to be someone that I think often is overshadowed by bigger names on this team, but it's going to be Brayden Schenn, Ross, because he's had a really good year. And I mean, ever since the Blues got him, he's been great. But his last 15 games, so since December 7th, he has 19 points. Like, he's just absolutely lighting it up. I talked about the shooting percentage of Barbashev. He's at a 29% success rate with his shooting lately. So sure, when you think of the Blues, you think of O'Reilly, you think of Tarasenko, you think of Colton Parayko, all these guys, but don't forget about Brayden Schenn. That's all I'm going to say.
All right. I'm going to keep an eye out for Brayden Schenn. I'm also going to be looking out for Robert Thomas.
Yes.
I mean, lived with the Tkachuk household. You know, there's that relationship there. Brady had the Blues jersey turned backwards with the Robert Thomas name played on during their cup run after the Sens were out of the playoffs. I know that rubs some fans the wrong way. It doesn't bother me at all. These guys just supporting one another. Yeah. That being said, tonight is one of those games where, yeah, if Nick Paul, and it's a huge ask to shut down that top line, if they can do that, then that Thomas line is probably going to get the Stützle, Gaudette, Formanton line. And defensively, they're better, but I don't know if that's a matchup I really like here if I'm the Ottawa Senators. So I'm looking out for Robert Thomas. I'm hoping that maybe it's just an off night for him, Tarasenko, and Buchnevich. Those guys, quick strike offense. You got to be careful with them, as the top line is more of a grind down low, an overload, get pucks in the corner and just battle it out with Schenn and O'Reilly being unbelievable at that, and Kyrou being kind of the speed demon on that line. But that second unit, it's going to be pucks in the back of the net in a hurry if you're not careful. So that whole second line I'm really eyeing in on, but especially Robert Thomas playing center, because you know what? I think this is a better test for Timmy. Keep him away from O'Reilly, but I think that he could excel against Robert Thomas. So if I'm getting a 3-1 win, I need Timmy to at least get a tuck in this one. He's not my locked on player. However, I'm doing that for Brady Tkachuk. Somebody had to do it against his hometown team, but I have reason. Pilsy, how many teams do you think Brady Tkachuk doesn't have a single point against in the NHL? And of course, we're keeping out Seattle because he hasn't played them yet. Impossible to score against a team you haven't played.
I mean, you got to think quite a lot, because think of Brady Tkachuk's career. A big chunk of that is COVID times and the All-Canadian division. And there's a lot of teams on the West Coast that he hadn't seen much. So I'm going to go with it's got to be about 5, right?
Well, I'll tell you that he's played only 3 games against 3 different teams. That's the fewest he's faced. He's faced Vegas 4 times, Nashville 4 times, Minnesota 5. So there are Western Conference teams, like you said, who hasn't played much, but there's only 2 teams who he has no points against ever. One of them is the Columbus Blue Jackets, no points in 7 games, -8. Oops.
Oh.
And the St. Louis Blues, 3 games, -3, no points. That changes tonight. Brady needs at least one. Get him on the power play. I know Chabot's out. we'll see Brannstrom, and a lot of people have been calling for that, even with Chabot in the lineup, to get Branny. That he's just dynamic. I don't want to say, but he moves fast. He moves quicker. Like Chabot does so much at even strength, does so much on the power play that it's just like Chabot, and this is a compliment for him. He slows the game down, but sometimes to a fault when it's in the offensive zone on the power play. Whereas when you go to the top of the umbrella, you want it to go quick to one of your guys in the one-timer spot or down low. And I think Brannstrom's really good at that one-touch offense. So I'm excited to see how he works out. I wish, of course, that Batherson and Norris were in their usual spots helping out. But alas, that ship has sailed, at least for a little while. So all that to say, I think if Brady gets one, it might be on the power play tonight. The Sens could use it because their power play hasn't been exactly powerful in the last little while.
All right. Well, you've gave me two perfect segues into two different topics. You want me to go locked on player or keys to victory?
Let's go locked on. We'll get rid of that, and then we'll hit our keys to victory before sending everyone off. And again, make sure you tune in to the postcast following tonight's game.
Yeah, so my locked-on player, it's got to be Erik Brannstrom. And it was Brannstrom before I knew Chabot was going to be out. Because, look, I don't want to be raining on parades here. I know I do that a lot on this show. But Brannstrom, yeah, his defensive play has been good. He's looked good out there. But this is a guy who we've seen quarterback the top power play in Belleville like he's done it for years. Like, he's so effective at it. We've seen him put up points in Belleville. But this year, Ross, he only has 2 points and just 2 assists. And he's averaging over 19 minutes of ice time. Like, the opportunity has been there. Like we talked about, he needs to get opportunity, but he hasn't been able to produce offensively. His last 6 games, no points at all. And he needs to figure it out. And I think having a chance to be on the top power play unit, although this is a very watered down top power play unit, especially with no Chabot now, he needs to show what he can do, and he needs to produce offensively. And all season, Ross, he only has 24 shots. So he needs to start getting the puck on net. I want to see Brannstrom really take off here because he's not going to get an opportunity to play on the top power play unit with Thomas Chabot. Ian Mendes threw that idea to DJ Smith, saying, why not do a top unit of Brannstrom and Chabot? We've seen how effective they can be 5-on-5 together offensively, but DJ Smith quickly shut that down, saying, I don't think Brannstrom's the right guy for that because he needs to be at the top of the umbrella, and that's what Chabot's doing on the top unit, right? So we're not going to see that. So that's to say, let's see Brannstrom take over this top power play, and if they get power play time, he needs to absolutely dominate. So I'm going to be locked on to Erik Brannstrom tonight.
Last season, Thomas Chabot missed the last 4 games, and Erik Brannstrom had 4 points, was +1, had 5 shots on goal, and averaged 23 minutes over that stretch. So we'll see if he can continue to improve, because I think he's been playing well this year, right? Like, my eyes aren't deceiving me. He has 2 points in 16 games, and he's an offensive defenseman. There's a guy on the other side of the ice who he could really model his game after, and Torrey Krug.
He says he watches a lot of Torrey Krug. He told TSN 1200 that. So, yeah, I think Torrey Krug, that's a great kind of reaching goal to try to be like that player.
How the hell are the Sens going to win this game, Pilsy?
Well, I can tell you how they're not going to win it, and that's if they aren't disciplined. Because if you look at the St. Louis Blues power play, Ross, only the Leafs are better. The St. Louis Blues are clicking at a 27.7% success rate on the power play. So, you know, you talked about it. This is a team that Craig Berube, he likes to get gritty. He likes to play physical. If the Sens start getting frustrated and if the score's not going their way and they start taking penalties, bad disciplined penalties, they're going to be out of this game in such a hurry. It's not even going to be funny because this power play, like, look at these power play units, Ross. I'm on daily, shout out Daily Faceoff. Braden Shen, Ryan O'Reilly, Kyrou with Falk and Perron. Then the second unit is miles ahead of the Sens' top power play unit right now. Pavel Buchnevich with Robert Thomas and Barbashev. Then Krug and Tarasenko. Tarasenko is on their second power play unit. That's what we're talking about here. Like, if the Sens take penalties, they're done. They're done unless Matt Murray has yet another masterful performance.
Yeah, I like the sound of that, man. The Sens PK has been great. They gave up one against Washington, but they also got one with Alex Formenton earning a shorthanded marker, and it wasn't even on a breakaway. Can you believe that? Lilsey, now, usually I'm a big start early, start quick guy, but the St. Louis Blues, They have 13 wins in 25 games when they score first. That's not killer.
No.
It's not killer for a team. And I think that for my key to victory here, it's take advantage of the only weakness I see on this Blues team. Make their D pivot and try to get back and get pucks. This Mikkola-Parayko pair doesn't scare me much, especially like Parayko, don't get me wrong, decent to good defenseman, but I want them pivoting and trying to go back and retrieve pucks all night long. It's going to be, if the Sens win this game, it's not going to be dipsy doodles at the blue line getting past them. It's going to be chip and chase, hard forecheck. And this is where, and Austin Watson serving the last game of his suspension, this would be a good Austin Watson game, honestly. So we'll see if somebody else can take on that role of getting pucks in deep, past the defenseman, make them pivot, pressure them, and don't let their forwards get easy breakouts or else the Sens are in real trouble. So that's my key to victory, Pilsy. I know your confidence level is not as high as mine, and maybe I'm gasping here as I realize what I've done, what I've said, but I'm on Timmy to score tonight. I'm on Brady to score tonight, and I'm going to probably sprinkle a little bit on Zack Sanford just because I like the storyline there. And his only real big appearance this year was against his hometown team in Boston.
Yeah.
So why not have another big game against the team he won the Stanley Cup with? Why not?
Yeah,
crazy.
Ross, I love all those and I hope those happen, but there's one thing you mentioned that I hope happens the most, and that would be a Sanford-Bertuzzo fight. Like, imagine that actually happens. Like, Sens are going to win the cup if Sanford wins that fight, no?
I don't know, maybe by osmosis, but I don't think he wins that fight 9 out of 10 times.
How did the fight go in practice? Did we get a hockey fights winner or loser from that one?
We didn't, but I think he got pumped. I don't think he even threw a punch.
Hey, but Sanford, good on him. He knows I got to take a couple of punches to the face to get this team going. That's a team guy. Get him going here.
All right. Well, we'll let you know on Twitter when we find out the starting goalie for the St. Louis Blues. Everyone, cross your fingers and hope that it's Jordan Binnington. And hey, best case scenario, get Binnington in his own head. This guy is a complete snap show out there. So hopefully the Sens can use that to their advantage. We'll be touching base with you later on today as well, not only on Twitter at Sens Central, but in the postcast after the game. I have a feeling it's going to be electric. And again, Lalims Martian looks like a completely different dude. I don't know if he's trying to go anonymous ×2 or what the deal is, but you have to see it to believe it. So find out tonight in the postcast on our YouTube. Pilsy, any final thoughts before we go?
I think Lalims Martian is just getting to his head, Ross. A couple people in the chat said he looked cute, so he's like, you know what? I'm going to do everything I can to look even cuter, and he might have achieved it. You got to wait and see to find out.
Hope you enjoyed today's show. Have a great day, everyone. We'll chat later. For Brandon Pillar, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.